going to go back now and listen to Mr. Bernanke.
Have, as I said before, a medium-term sustainability plan. I will say one thing about healthcare costs, which is that that's the most important determinant right now of our long-run fiscal situation. And even under the status quo, we have a very serious problem. And so we do need to address that problem in some way, because given the aging of our population, the increases in medical costs are going to be a huge burden on our fiscal balance.
Well, on that very subject, here's what the head of the CBO said about that. He said, as a result of those deficits, federal debt held by the public is going to soar from 41% of GDP to 60% at the end of the fiscal year 2010. This higher debt results in permanently higher spending to pay interest on that debt. Federal interest payments already amount to more than 1% of GDP. Unless current law changes, that share will rise to 2.5% by 2020. And he says the federal budget is on an unsustainable path because federal debt's going to continue to grow much faster than the economy over the long run, and large budget deficits would reduce national saving, leading to more borrowing from abroad and less domestic investment, which in turn would depress economic growth in the United States. Over time, accumulating debt would cause substantial harm to the economy. Substantial harm. Do you agree with the CBO's estimate on that subject of accumulating that amount of debt?
If fiscal policy stays on an unsustainable path, I do agree with it, yes.
Thank you very much, Chairman Bernanke. I appreciate your testimony here today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Right. The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Bernanke, welcome. In Chairman Frank's questioning of you earlier, he asked about the positive aspects of the stimulus bill that was passed early in February. I believe what I heard you say is that you believed it had some marginal improvement on state and local tax revenues and some marginal improvement on consumer spending, but you were reserving judgment. Is that a fair assessment of what you told this committee?
We're still pretty early in the execution of this program.
Will the gentleman yield?
I'd be happy to yield to the gentleman.
The word marginal was never uttered. He didn't say marginal.
No.
It doesn't say. I've read the book. The gentleman can read the report. It doesn't say marginal.
No, I appreciate the chairman's comment.
It's had some effect, we believe.
Okay, it has had some effect. Okay, well, the chairman has said some. So I appreciate the chairman's distinction. Clearly, what you didn't mention as far as positive impacts was employment. We know that since this legislation has passed, that unemployment is now at a quarter-of-a-century high, that 2 million jobs have been lost. Some believe that there is cause and effect on adding $1.1 trillion to the national debt. And on page 6 of your testimony, again, you state, quote, unless we demonstrate a strong commitment to fiscal sustainability, we risk having neither financial stability nor durable economic growth, unquote. I've noticed, and please tell me if I'm incorrect, the latest FOMC report indicates or estimates that we are looking at 9 to 10% unemployment, not only for the rest of this year, but for the rest of next year as well. Did I read that report correctly?
That's right.
Okay, so 9 to 10% unemployment. And this estimate is up from your earlier report. Is that also correct?
That's right. The one that was made in January.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry,
I guess, Mr. Chairman, then the question is, yes, I would hope that if one committed $1.1 trillion when you add in debt service, some good would come from it. Now, clearly, it hasn't happened on the employment front, but I'm also concerned that no matter what the positive aspects are, without the strong commitment to fiscal sustainability, might it be possible that whatever short-term good comes out of that legislation is going to be outweighed by long-term damage, as many economists believe?
The deficit is obviously an issue. We have to worry about the long-term debt ratio, certainly.
In that regard, Mr. Chairman, as you know, Capitol Hill Congress is considering health care legislation. Clearly, I think all Americans agree that the status quo is unsustainable over the long term. The legislation that is presently before Congress, CBO Director Elmendorf has said, quote, we do not see the sort of fundamental changes that would be necessary to reduce the trajectory of federal health spending by a significant amount, and on the contrary, the legislation significantly expands the federal responsibility for health care costs, unquote. He goes on to estimate essentially the table stakes cost of the program, if you will, at $1 trillion. Now, again, I would hope that some benefit would come from that program, but do you agree with Director Elmendorf's assessment if you have looked at the cost of that legislation? If you haven't, assuming he is correct, would you be concerned about the impact that this would have on our nation's commitment to fiscal sustainability?
I have not done an independent evaluation of the cost. I think, as I said earlier, that a critical element of fiscal sustainability in the long term is the cost of health care and the fiscal share in health care costs. So whether we adopt a new program or reform or whether we stick with the status quo, I do think we need to address that 2.5% faster than per capita income growth in per capita health care costs.